There are some amazing things happening today, and I want to just go through. I want to go through three things that are phenomenal. First of all, Rick Perry has called out 1,000 National Guard, and he's putting them mainly right in the valley where we were. 1,000 all the way across a 1,200-mile border is not going to make that much of an impact, but he is not doing that. He is strategically placing them. We don't have the details yet, whether they'll be armed, whether they'll be able to do anything, but just their presence will make a difference. We were out of the border, and remember, we saw the Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah,
the game wardens were there, and just having the game wardens there was making a difference. Mm-hmm. So this is really good news. Now, number two, a district court in the District of Columbia has now come out and said that the subsidy provision in Obamacare is illegal. And this is gigantic. What this means is the government can't subsidize your health care. It can't pick and choose. It can't go ahead.
In 36 states.
36 states is enough to have
it's huge.
A lot of really pissed off people. Mm-hmm. California, New York, two of those?
I don't know. Let me
find out for me. Yeah. Find out if they're all the states that nobody pays attention to in the press.
It's the state exchanges, so they're going to be likely almost overwhelmingly left-leaning states that can keep it. So can keep it. If you set up your own state exchange, which the reason was they believed everybody would do this. They believed everybody would do a state exchange. So that's where the subsidies can go to. They didn't realize that no one would want to do a state exchange, even a lot of the left-leaning states. So the ones that are under healthcare.gov, the federal exchange, if you got your insurance through healthcare.gov, then your subsidies would be going away because of the structure of the law. By the way the law was written and intentionally written. This is not a mistake. It's not, as you pointed out in the breakdown, a typo, which they have some movement to be able to interpret a typo, so they don't have to pass the law again, which makes sense. This is not a typo. They put this in intentionally because that's what they believed what would happen. And because people found the plan to be so onerous and we've even seen them, like Oregon, who had created a state exchange, went through all the trouble, spent billions of dollars, and get no subscribers out of it. This happened in multiple states. And this is why so many states didn't do it.
Right. And so he has been pushing healthcare.gov. Healthcare.gov. Just sign up now. Healthcare.gov. That's over. You get no subsidies if that's where you went and signed up.
So the American people get to see the real cost of Obamacare now. Mm-hmm. They would have to see the actual cost before the government gives them all the free money.
Because there's no free money coming out.
Because there's no free money. It's illegal if this were to hold.
If this holds up.
If this holds up, but this is Lawrence Tribe, the guy who was the law professor that taught President Obama at Harvard, said, I wouldn't hold out much hope that Obamacare survives this legal challenge. That is phenomenal. Now, let me give you the third story. Common Core. Common Core is falling apart all across the country. You have made such a huge dent in Common Core that you now have Bill Gates, arguably one of the most powerful men in the world, a guy who is subsidizing NBC News. He is the one, he and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are the ones paying for the education reporting done on NBC News. That's only a little footnote as hey, thanks to Bill and Melinda Gates for subsidizing all of our education. Not hey, by the way, if we say something good about Common Core, the guys who are paying for our reporting are also the guys paying for Common Core. So you have a guy who is that powerful, controls that much, has that much muscle and skin in the game, and he's even waving the white flag and saying, wait, let's just give this let's take a 2-year hiatus. Let's try this all over again. It's all coming undone. There's some really good things, but now is the time not to say, oh, okay, well, we got it. We got it in Oklahoma, we got it in Texas, because what they're doing is just like in Florida, they're changing the name. There's billions of dollars at stake. Forget about the left. Right? What you have to pay attention to is there are billions of dollars at stake. And it is big business that is pushing this through. Tonight, movie theaters all across the country, we will not conform. This is something that I don't think has ever been done before. Yesterday we had Michelle Malkin on. She said that this was providential in its timing. And I think she's right. This is probably the biggest call to activists and parents, that has maybe ever been done. 650 movie theaters all across the country. This is not a bitch session. This is not anything. This is not a show. This is for you to get active. This is to help you get active. David Barton joins us now. David is in charge of one of the pods, if you will. We have about 100 people coming in that have been working for, how long has it been, David? 18 months?
At least 18 months.
18 months. And we have had several meetings here with people from all over the country. We've flown them in. Some of them met with you and others. And you've been kind of meeting with some of the government people, and you've been looking about how do we get the legislature and how do we get the governors to actually act on this. So you're covering that pod tonight, right?
Yes, sir. I'll have the political side, what we can do to make sure this does not go into effect.
And who do you have working with that? And what do you know any of the ideas that you are working on tonight?
Yeah, several ideas. One person we'll have is Matt Kibbe, Freedom Works. Mm-hmm. We'll also have Senator Josh Burkeen out of Oklahoma. He's the sponsor of the Common Core bill in the Senate that was signed by Governor Mary Fallon.
That was remarkable because Mary was not. She was for Common Core. Mm-hmm. She was for it. And the way he fought it, the way they fought it in Oklahoma was pretty remarkable.
It was remarkable. And one of the ladies who really got it going in Oklahoma is just a regular citizen, Jenny White. And she's the one who really educated the legislators and got them moving on this and got it turned around in Oklahoma. So those are the three that we'll have at the table in politics.
Okay. And so in what you're trying to do is show the different ways that, will you be highlighting at all, like things that are happening in Florida, where they're just changing it to the sunshine standards, or what they did here in Texas, so people are aware that those weasels in your state houses, they will bury it and reintroduce it as something else?
We'll have some of that, but we're also going to have very specific step-by-step plans for how any citizen can get this turned around in their state. So it's going to be kind of a how-to manual as well from people who are on the inside who have done this. And it'll be a step-by-step. Here's what you do with your local school board. Here's what you do with your county folks. Here's what you do with the state legislature. Here's what you do to get it out of your state.
I heard, and I don't want to say who this was or what state it was, but I heard from somebody just today that a guy who strongly disagreed with me is governor, one of the 50 governors, and strongly disagreed with me. Somebody sent him a book of mine, Conform, and it is all about Common Core. And he was a big supporter. And he read the book as a big supporter of Common Core. He is now meeting with the anti-Common Core people and saying, okay, hang on just a second. Let me look at this again. Because he read the book and couldn't take the facts apart. You know what I mean? It's all footnoted there. So he couldn't take the facts apart. And now he's meeting and saying, hang on, maybe I should re-look at this. Maybe I am on the wrong side. That's huge. That's huge.
It's happening across the country. I was talking to a senator in South Carolina who did the bill there for Common Core. He said 2 years ago he only had 2 supporters in the Senate to get rid of Common Core. This year it was unanimous in the Senate to get rid of Common Core. In 2 years, they went from only 2 supporters to unanimous.
David, you were on the border with us this weekend. What happened? Because I think this kind of stuff, I think something's happening. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Something definitely is happening. What we saw on the border was new even for them. They were amazed at what they saw. They had not come together across lines like they did there. The pastors that sat around that table, the folks who linked arms, the Catholics with the Protestants across the board, it was new stuff for them. They were really encouraged. But the folks that came from the outside were encouraged too.
Hang on. Tell me about the Catholics and the Protestants in the Hispanic community, because I didn't know this. Yeah, there's like a real split.
Yeah, Catholics and Protestants in general. I think most rifts are kind of healed and they get along well with each other, but not in the Hispanic community. And particularly as you go into Mexico and Central South America, there are massive, even violent splits, kind of like it was with the Catholics and the Protestants in England 30 years ago. So there is a massive split. Yeah, massive splits. There are deaths as a result of you're Protestant, I'm Catholic. So in the Hispanic community, they do not play well in the sandbox at all.
Okay, so this was the first time, as I understand it, this was one of the first times, at least the first time in such a dramatic fashion, where these guys all got together this last weekend.
They all got together. You had evangelicals, Protestants, and Catholics all working together in the same room, around the same table, working hand in hand to help those kids, and that was a real first for them. And again, now Hispanics in America, it's not as bad as it is Hispanics coming in from other places. But when you live in the Valley area, where it's still very, very strongly influenced Mexico and America,
99% Hispanic, and it's right on the border.
It's a big rift, and they came together and joined hands, and that was remarkable.
So, David, I believe I saw miracles this weekend. I believe I saw a shift, at least in that community, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it happened in the poorest zip code in the country. And it came to people who have no clout. You know, those churches, when we went down and replenished their storehouses, that's the poorest community. It's not like our rich communities and, just the church can handle it. They don't have any money. They don't have any money. So when their storehouses are empty, they're empty. It's not like they've got a bunch of rich people that they go to. It's the poorest zip code in the country. That's saying something. And all of a sudden, this miracle happens down there, and I don't know if it's going to just. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have this feeling when you and I sat down at the table with the evangelicals 6 years ago, and I walked in as a Mormon. You remember that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
How wasn't it? That was chilly. That was chilly for about 10 minutes, but it changed. The temperature changed. Now, I'm seeing people get together, and they're not abandoning their theology, but what they're doing is they're saying, my religion comes second to my faith in God. My doctrine remains sound. I'm not changing my doctrine. You're not changing your doctrine. So we're just not arguing. My religion comes to argue later. My faith and what the Lord tells me to do comes first. And that's when real change happens. Right?
And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we saw down there. Again, Catholics and Protestants in that community don't play well together, but they came together. You brought up Sister Norma yesterday.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she became a bulldog, got right in the face of the Border Patrol and said, you will let me into these kids, and I will pray with them, and I will hug. I love the fact that she got in their face.
Right. And she's a liberal. I mean, there's no question. She wanted open borders the way to Argentina. She did. She was like, we should be one big America. And I'm like, oh, okay, sister. But so we didn't agree on stuff like that. But she was strong in her defense of what was right.
Yeah.
We found out yesterday, we were talking about this, that in Arizona, the same thing was happening. They're not letting. Can you explain what's happening with the clergy?
Yeah, the clergy are trying to do what they should do, and that is if you want smaller government, you're going to have more church involvement on social programs. And so as these kids are being shipped into places all across the country, from Michigan to Dallas to elsewhere, clergy are trying to go in and saying, hey, we want to take care of the needs of these kids, and they're being told by the government officials, no, you're not allowed in here.
Now, these are the places, and from the stories we've heard, they're the worst things I've ever heard. I mean, probably since the Japanese internment camps where we were just putting people in horse stalls. This is the worst thing I've heard America do. And we're putting these kids and just locking them into things that are just, it's despicable what's happening. And they're alone, and they're afraid, and they're 5 years old. And nobody can hug them. Nobody can talk to them. There's no clerics involved. There's no churches involved. There's a guy with a badge and a gun. That's not the way to handle children. And they're not letting the churches in. And so what happened in Arizona?
In Arizona, a Catholic priest went to try to meet with these kids, and the officials there said, no, we don't need you. As a matter of fact, we're taking some of our Border Patrol guys, send them through a 2-week course to be chaplains, and they'll be able to take care of all the spiritual needs. A 2-week course to be chaplains.
Crazy.
It's nuts. But they're keeping the faith community out, but it will
You want to talk about separation of church and state.
That's right. If you want to talk about it, then what are you doing training chaplains according to government philosophy?
How are you? Have you ever seen anything in American history where we're keeping, in a humanitarian crisis, that we're keeping chaplains and people of faith out of those situations? Have you ever seen this?
I know of one instant, and it sent Americans to the roof, and it was when Nathan Hale was denied the benefits of clergy. They would not even let him have a Bible the night before he was hung. And that may have added as much furor to the American Revolution as anything that happened, was when the British would not let Nathan Hale have a Bible before he was hung as an American patriot. That's the only time I've seen something like that. Even in the Civil War, both sides provided Bibles and chaplains.
That's incredible. It's incredible. David, get real quick. chaplains should go and demand that they get into these.
And if they're told no, they need to get a hold of Liberty Counsel, Liberty Institute, Alliance Defense Fund. All of these groups do this all the time for free. That's what they exist for, and they will kick tail on this.
You need to go. If you're a chaplain, or a priest, a rabbi, any clergy, you need to get to one of these detention centers and demand that they let you in. These children this is abusive, what's happening. And our chaplains need to get in there. Not government chaplains, private priests, pastors, rabbis need to be in these places. Demand that you're let in. And then follow David's instructions. Call the Liberty Counsel. They will help you. Thanks, David. We'll see you tonight.
Look forward to it, Glenn.
8 o'clock in movie theaters. If you want to find a movie theater near you, go to wewillnotconform.com.